Well, we're back.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hey.
If you're seeing us, thank you so much.
Thank
You're
you.
a supporter on Locals.
Mm-hmm.
We appreciate you. You're amazing. Thank you so much for your continued support here. It's really, really fun what's going on and what we're doing. Doing a lot of stuff more here on our Rumble channel as well.
Yeah.
And you can, if you're not having subscribed over there, check it out. We're putting up daily stuff.
We've got some good
stuff. Yep.
Let's
And
come out.
yep, we've got a show with Mel K now.
What?
Yeah, well, we're doing the real history of Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're continuing to do our cutting room floor.
Mm-hmm.
We've got our Spironomics. Abigail's.
I know.
Abigail's Spironomics is actually
Spironomics for kids.
She's got more views than us. I think.
Yeah, I think she does.
She's just crushing it. So anyway, but you can check that out over there. And but right now we're here to talk about America's General.
What?
General Michael Flynn, right here. Look at Mo.
What does Mo stand for?
Mission over ego. Yep. And I have to say, I that's one of the things I really appreciate about General Flynn and Clay. I've seen them navigate through some pretty crazy stuff when it comes to like
my Uncle Clay.
Well, Clay Clark.
Oh, Clay Clark.
Clay Clark.
Other Clay.
I've seen them navigate through some pretty crazy stuff, because they've been attacked by the media, and then there's infighting that happens inside the Patriots. Oh my gosh, don't like that never happens.
No.
But it is all about mission over ego, right? It's not about the ego. It's not about all of that nonsense that comes with that. It's all about just like, what's the mission? And they're trying to wake up America, right?
But I want the credit. Sorry.
But anyway,
that's from Wag the Dog.
Yeah, that's from Wag the Dog. For anybody that don't know, if you've not seen that movie, it's hilarious.
Oh my goodness,
it's extraordinarily funny.
Probably true.
And yeah. Anyway, David Mamet wrote that.
Did he?
Yeah.
David Mamet's done some good stuff.
He has done some good stuff.
What's your favorite book that he wrote?
It's called On Directing. And if you're a filmmaker, totally should check that out. But anyway, speaking of films, if you've so this interview was done for our Reawakening series, and it's a 4-part series, of which we have one done. We had the money to do the first one as kind of a pilot, and it's available for free to watch, as you can see right there. It's available for free at reawakeningseries.com.
Yeah. And
what we decided to do was kind of like The Chosen, where it's like, okay, we're going to put that out, and then people would share it, because we want to make it easy for people to share.
Right.
And then
because it's about getting the information out there.
It's about getting the information out there.
We put a lot of time and energy into this, and the people need to be able to share it.
Right.
And we don't want money to be an issue.
Right.
At the same time, we can't afford to make projects if we don't get some money.
At the same time, money is an issue. So, we have 3 more that we want to make, and we've filmed a lot already for those, and it was just a matter of post-production. Yeah. And so you can go to reawakeningseries.com and help us. Yeah. Share it, donate. There's a donate button there, and all of that just goes straight into helping us get this thing done. Episode 2 is right around the corner. I know we've been saying that for a while, but there's been some crazy kind of things that have happened with selection code and just life, and like I said, finances. Unfortunately, people don't work when you don't pay them, so you gotta right. So
I keep working and you don't pay me. What's going on?
And I work and I don't pay myself.
What?
But anyway, but anyways, if you can help us out there, please, at the very least, go and share that, because it is literally as easy as putting in your name and an email address, and you can watch it for free.
Yep.
But anyway, we want to show you a trailer.
We do.
We'll show you.
Just a beautiful day in downtown Oklahoma City.
The game tonight has been postponed. You are all safe.
We're in a very fragile place. How do I be successful in my business when I'm being told by my government that I have to close my doors?
On the Thrive Time show, we try to teach people how to grow a business.
If he questions and wants to get to the truth. You want to know why we were shut down. Where is this coming from?
China had this festering. We need that data.
What are they going to do when they come for your kids?
The answer is no.
Fauci didn't know anything really about anything, and I'd say that to his face.
Delora, I really appreciate you for allowing me to. We have people in charge over our communities that we don't know what their philosophy is.
Our country has become godless. We've taken God out of everything.
The markets today plummeted.
They will not allow us within 30 to 100 feet.
I called General Flynn. I said, I feel like God wants us to team up to do a Reopen America tour, and we get people back to God. And he says, I know. I'm going, you know?
What is required for the darkness to creep in is the absence of light.
We seem to have lost the value of our basic fundamental rights.
Why will the churches not stand up?
Wow.
Okay, now I know we made that, but I still get chills every once in a
Yeah.
while when I watch it.
I have goosebumps right now.
Woo!
I
It's
think
just, anyway.
What, like watching that, you know, you feel both a sense of hope and powerlessness, because when your rights are removed, you know, you feel violated.
Yeah.
And so right now, I mean, we have the Me Too movement, right? And you're saying, if I say no, I mean no.
Right.
That means no.
Right.
And it's like, oh, but no means yes to the government. We're being violated by our own government right now, and it is not okay. People need to stand up and say something. And General Flynn has been leading the charge.
General
You
Flynn
know,
has
he's been
leading the
out
charge.
there fighting for our freedoms, exposing the truth. And I think this clip of Raw and Uncut is really going to share some of that stuff of what he's doing.
Yeah, no, I General Flynn, it was awesome meeting him for the first time.
Yeah.
So I'm in Anaheim, and people go like, "Oh, how was the tour?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I was in a black box all day." Like they just kept filing people in, and I had like 15 minutes, maybe half an hour, depending upon it. But like some people I only had 5 minutes with. I mean, it was just like. But I think, I mean, my team, I lost track. My team said we did about 40 interviews.
I know, it was a lot. It was a
and
lot.
it was all day. It was just for the entire weekend. It was just, you know, anyway. So he comes in.
I had to get new tread on my heels.
Right? So and you were just bringing people over.
I was.
You were just feeding
hi,
them to
I'm
me.
Joy. I'm the producer.
I'm sitting there in this dark room with my camera crew and just doing all these interviews. Anyway, so General Flynn comes in with all of his bodyguards. And I go over to shake his hand, and I'm like, "Hi, I'm Matthew. I'm the director." And he looks at me and he's like, "What's your name? Where'd you grow up? Are you married? How many kids do you have?" You know, and he literally fires off like 17 questions in the matter of 36 seconds.
Talk to your mom.
Right? Yeah. What's the last time you talked to your mom? You know, I'm like, 2 weeks ago. You know, I mean, like just like it was, and I answered him as fast as he was firing him at me, and all of a sudden he looks at me and he goes, "Okay. We can do the interview." And he sits down, and I was like, "Wow!"
I was in the back just laughing,
grilled
so
by
awesome
the master spy.
Yeah.
But
you know, if you would have lied at all, he would have
known.
Like, "Bing!"
No, boom.
He's like,
he
"Done.
Known.
I'm out."
He
This guy
known.
doesn't tell the truth. He's lying.
Yep. He's like a human lie detector.
He is.
Anyway.
Believe that.
Yeah. So we and that was the first Reawaken tour.
Yeah. Well, my experience of meeting him was slightly different than yours.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm the one that's meeting all these people.
Right.
I have all their contact information, and I'm meeting them, and I'm trying to let them know what we're working on,
Yep.
and they need to come back. And so I've got our kids with us. You know, I've got Matthew and Abigail, and we're going. And so Matthew has his American flag shirt on because he loves
that American flag shirt.
Right?
Yep.
And so I go to meet General Flynn, and General Flynn bends down to talk to Matthew, and Matthew's eyes are like this big, and he's like, "He's an American hero." And then his bodyguards are like, "Come on, General, we have to go." And I was like, "But wait, I've got okay." And so I had to wait until he got done speaking because he took the time to hang out with my son, which was awesome. Yeah. And then I had to wait for him after he got off the stage and then tell him what was going on and then have him follow us back over. And then I got to experiencing him grilling you. So that was really fun for me. It was really fun.
Yep. And
he took the time to hang out with my son, and he grilled my husband.
And he does. He's that kind of guy. Like, you know, there's been several interactions because we've been to 14.
A lot.
Wait, no, we weren't at the first two. and then there's 16 of them, and we missed New York.
Yeah.
So we've been to 13 of them. Yeah. And we're coming up on Branson. So when you're watching this, Branson will be happening this weekend.
Right.
And so if you are anywhere near Branson,
you should come.
You should totally come.
Yeah.
But anyway, but we've interacted with him several times. You've introduced him to your Uncle
my
Clay.
Uncle Clay. Seriously, my Uncle Clay's been in the military since he was 18 years old.
Yep.
He's now 54. When we went to the tour in Oregon, my uncle came to the tour. I actually gave my uncle a shout out from the stage, and then started a rumor that Clay Clark was my uncle, because I said, I want to thank my Uncle Clay. And everybody's like, whoa, Clay's your uncle. And I was like, oh man, I should have put last names out there.
I'm actually older than Clay.
I know, that's true. I am older than Clay. Clay Clark. My uncle's like 13 years older than me.
Yeah.
But my uncle got to spend some really great time with General Flynn. He encouraged him. My uncle was feeling, just frustrated and defeated because, like I said, he's been in the military all this time and could be dishonorably discharged for not taking the shot. Yeah. Right? And so General Flynn sat there, took the time with him and just encouraged him and gave him some pointers and whatnot, and it's been amazing. But I think we should go to the clip.
Not yet. Hold on a second. Not yet.
No.
So but we've seen him interact with our kids a couple of different times.
Yeah.
My mom and dad got to meet him in Idaho. And they, he just stood there and talked to him for like 10 minutes, and he got done and he walked off, and my mom and dad, he's like, wow, he's just so great. Like, and I said, yeah, he just does that. And he goes around, he hangs out, he goes up into the stands. He goes out where people can hang out and talk. He's always taking pictures. Yeah. This actually originated, when you saw in the preview, where Clay's like, I call up General Flynn, and and he's like, I know, and it's like, it's like, well, actually, there's a little bit more to that story where Clay calls up General Flynn, and General Flynn, his side of the story was that he had been thinking about wanting to do like a thank you tour. That's right. Because of all of the people that had shown the love for him over the course of his, everything that he was dealing with the DOJ and having to go through court process and all of the hardships, and everybody that rallied around him and said he really wanted to do a thank you tour. And so he kind of sees that a little bit. The Reawaken America tours is a little bit of that and so much more. But he goes out of his way all the time, watched it every single time. One time when he was out in the lobby, all of a sudden my son comes up to us, and he comes up and he's like, I just ran into General Flynn. And I'm like, well, what did he say? No, I ran into him. like I bumped into him, and it was like, I was trying to go to the bathroom, and I really had to go to the bathroom, and I was just running through the crowd, and all of a sudden, like, I ran into him, and I looked up, and it was General Flynn. Yeah. I'm like, and he's like, what did he say to you? And he's like, where's your parents? So anyway, but yeah, so we should probably go into the interview now.
On that note,
now that we've shared all of our little anecdotes, and so enjoy this raw and uncut with General Flynn.
Introduction of General Flynn.
I am Mike Flynn, and I am a retired Army officer, a general officer from the United States Army, and I spent most of my life in service to the Army, and principally the Army, but all the services, and retired as a 3-star lieutenant general. I absolutely loved. I'd go back and serve today if I thought that was the nation's call. And then I got involved in politics simply because I wanted the country to stay the democracy that it is. And I felt like we were moving in a direction where we are today, which is toward socialism, and that's really a dangerous place for a democracy. And so I got involved in politics and ended up helping out Donald Trump get elected in 2016. And then, Katie barred the door, and the assault began. And that assault continues to today. So here we are sitting in Anaheim in this particular part of this journey for one of these health and freedom festivals, and we are still, that assault continues. The assault continues. So it never ends. It'll never end. You're always going to have to stand up for what you believe in, and it's not you go through a set of decision-making processes, and those are really, really difficult unless you've been in somebody's shoes. You just don't know. So that's kind of who I am, and I think most people know today that pay attention, that look to find the truth, that discover the truth, that they know what happened, and now what everybody's waiting for, like me, we're waiting for accountability. That's next, right? And like I say, and I say this publicly, that accountability, if it doesn't come in the courts of America, it'll come at the gates of hell. Well, I think what we're facing globally is we are facing really a shift, an ideological shift to assume power, to continue to consume great wealth, and with wealth actually comes power, and with power comes wealth. But the Great Reset, which there's books written about it, and it's worth really people that watch this to go and read those books, and maybe you guys can on a side way that you direct there, Matthew, how you show those books, because there's some really good books and people ought to study them in detail. But the Great Reset is a shift of sort of an ideological path that a small group wants the world to go down, right? Instead of having the way the world is, right, where you have separate nation states and you have competing ideologies and adversarial ideologies in some cases. Democracy is really adversarial to communism. Can you live in the same world together? We have been. And there's other ideologies that are kind of in the here and now, but in the past it was different ideologies in world history. So we're now in a place where we have an ideological shift, a huge shift, and it's by a sort of a globalist elite. And that globalist elite is really trying to take control and take power of probably the last reigning strength of the world, economic system, military system to a degree, ideological system, which is the United States of America. And so maybe the United States is waning instead of waxing like the moon, right? You wax, you're going up. You're waning, you're coming down. So maybe we're waning. I don't believe that. In other conversations I've had, because I'm a guy that has always studied our enemies and studied our adversaries and tried to put myself in their boots or their shoes or their cultures or their towns or wherever they lived, in their military mind particularly, to try to understand what it was that they were thinking. I actually think that they made a huge mistake. So I think that they made a huge mistake in their timing. Where are we with everything, right? Well, just what's happening. For the average listener, for those people that are out there that are going to watch something like this, where are we? And so, because in the military we talk about first generation, second generation, third generation, fourth generation, fifth generation warfare. And the military, like we do, is we define all those things. And there's different aspects of that. Like first generation warfare is like really the classic, right? So where are we? Well, first of all, I would take and wipe the table of all of those. Okay? War is war. It's the tools that you're applying at a given moment in time to be able to achieve an objective. So when we start to define, well, are we here? Well, I'm fighting first generation war over here, I'm fighting fourth generation war, and it just confuses everybody, right? So war is war. What people typically think about with war is that people die in war, right? You go to war, people are going to sacrifice, and there's going to be catastrophe and death, and that's not what we never want that to happen. I believe, and I've written about this, that war is the norm for human behavior. Now, in this country, we probably have 1% of the population that is serving or has served. you know, and it's less and less the further we get away from generations that served in, let's just say, World War II, which is really, we're getting further away from that, or the Korean War, or even the Vietnam War. But really, war is the norm in human behavior and in history. I mean, and peace is the aberration. And people go, he's out of his mind. No, I'm not. I mean, this is going to be the 20th year, 20 years, first 2 decades of the 21st century for the United States of America, where we've been at war. This country's been at war overseas. You know, in some cases it was 100,000 plus troops deployed in Afghanistan or Iraq. Now we're down to the lesser thousands, but it's still, if you're in the military and you go over there, somebody's going to try to kill you. So that's war, right? And now, at a certain point in time, it becomes economic, or it becomes informational, which is really what part of a big part of your question, Matt, is that what happens in the information component of all types of warfare? Because the information component has been around since the beginning of time when it comes to warfare. There's always been deception. There's always been dishonesty. There's always been spying, right? That's happened throughout the history of warfare and throughout the history of the world. So now we're just at a new level because we have all this technology, right? So we have, this kind of stuff, and we have censorship. And then you add into it at a different level, you add in political correctness, which is really dangerous for a democratic society in warfare, where if you have to be politically correct when you're asked a question, and they want you to be politically correct instead of giving your honest, expert judgment, that's a dangerous place to be, because that's also informational warfare, but it's done domestically in our case, right? In many cases. So we have these competing things about warfare. Our nation has been at war for 20 years here, coming up to 20 years. And not the whole country. And that's actually a travesty, because we all applaud our military for going overseas and potentially sacrificing their lives. And we're all, oh, that's so sad, that's what happens. And the rest of the country just kind of goes on and doesn't even know what they're going to do Saturday night. So that's a little bit of an emotion coming out of me, because I've seen the worst of humanity overseas, and I've seen the worst of corruption, and I've seen people who have lost their lives, who have families, right? So there's a part of who all of us are that have served overseas, that have been sort of been there, done that, I guess, that have friends or know that kind of feeling, and it's a difficult feeling. So where are we in this country today? We are in a place where it's a very fragile place, the United States of America. We're in a very fragile place. And the fragileness or the fragility of where we are is that our Constitution is being frayed, and in some places it's being torn to shreds. So one of the areas where it's being torn to shreds is something called trust. And this is what these health and freedom festivals are really about. It's about instilling trust in the American people and teaching them, educating them, bringing out ideas and bringing out the truth, and doing it with people who know what they're talking about. I mean, on the health side, some of the leading doctors in the world in all this stuff that we're dealing with this COVID, pandemic, right? Plandemic, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's really, there's so much fake information. It's kind of like a don't look here. And then on the freedom side, we've got political people, we've got religious people, we've got national security experts, we have influencers in the social media, we have media personalities that are talking about freedom. Because one of the things, and I'll get off my soapbox here, Matt, in a second, so you maybe get one more question in. There's a tension, and there's tension always has existed and always will exist between liberty and order, okay? And liberty is what we Americans want. I don't want to be bothered. I want my liberties. I want my freedoms. I want to be able to sit here, talk to you the way I want to talk. I want to be able to go, say what I want to say. I want to go peacefully assemble. I want to go practice whatever religion I want to practice. And I don't want the government to tell me what to do. I want to make my own health choices. I want to be smart about what those health choices are. So that's this COVID stuff right now, where we've got the people marching around in hometown USA saying, hey, you haven't taken the jab yet. You're ready to take the jab. It's none of your business whether I did. And I've been around thousands and thousands of people. I feel fine. All these young people, these young children, especially children, that are being told they can't come back to school unless they get the shot. None of them are sick. Don't do that. And nobody should call this a vaccine, because a vaccine, by definition, in our system, is a FDA approved element, component, whatever, medicine. It's FDA approved. And the FDA approval process that I have learned goes from 5 years to 15 years, because they have to experiment with all kinds of other things, particularly animals and different types of animals, as a vaccine progresses. So now we're talking about giving it to children, and children have almost a damn near 100% recovery rate with very, very, very few exceptions, and those that I know of are because of other existing conditions. So now now it's that should be your choice. That's a liberty. The side of order is, the government needs to, make sure that we have law enforcement, right? We have rule of law. We have safe streets. We have street lights out there, on the streets out there, that says a red light comes on, a car stops. That's order. And we've trained that and instilled that in our system. But that tension between liberty and order exists for all Americans. And we have to stay, and we, the people, have to stay, I think, and we have to move our government, our federal government especially, more towards the idea that we're not going to give up our liberties. We're not going to give up our liberties. We want order, but we want our federal government to get out of the business of telling us every single thing that we must do and every single thing that we must teach our children or do to our children. It's not the government's responsibility. Yeah, right. So, digital soldiers, what is that? What I was really referring to was what I call and referred to and spoke about citizen journalists, because the journalists that we have did a disservice to their profession, clearly, and to the nation, because if you're pretending to be a journalist and that what you're writing about or what you're speaking about is an absolute lie, then you're not a journalist. You're a liar, right? You're just not. And then you can't say that, that's a conspiracy theory. How many big media have been caught lying, right? So the citizen journalist is in the framework or the analogy or the metaphor that I like to use. The citizen journalist is that digital soldier, right? And there are millions of these people around the world, not just here in this country, because I've had interactions over the persecution that I went through with a lot of people, and thank God that those citizen journalists were digging for the truth, because that's what digital soldiers are out there on this digital battlefield that I showed you earlier about the phone. These tools that we have for everybody now, right? So they're out there digging for the truth. They're fighting this information war, trying to discover the truth. And I always say that those citizen journalists, those digital soldiers, in my case, my personal case, and I will speak for myself right here, that I probably had the largest law firm in the history of the world involved in my case, for me, that worked for me, worked to discover the truth, because we would use threads. You know what a thread is on a Twitter feed, which I've been banned from Twitter. So we would use threads. We would use analysis from some of these citizen journalists who they're not trained journalists. They're just people that are researching, reading, digging, and just constantly analyzing, is this true or not? And if they didn't think it was true, they would, before they went forward with something, they would dig a little bit more and they would discover, because there's three sides to the truth. There's your side, right? There's your side, there's my side, and then there's the truth. And you can get close to it. So we would use these digital soldiers, these citizen journalists, to actually discover the truth for my case. And we would use a lot of that information right directly in the filings that we filed. Amazing. So that's why I say, I always say thanks to the American people. Really, thanks to all the citizen journalists and all the digital soldiers that fought for me, because, and I say it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but it's real. I had the largest law firm in the world working for me to discover the truth, and that's why I'm able to sit here today, Matt, to talk to you and to be part of this Health and Freedom Festival here in Anaheim. And we have them coming up, and I'm sure you guys will talk about where they are coming up here in the future. So thank you very much.
I think we're going to be in the other one, so I think we'll be able to talk again.
Yeah, you should be. I wish you were at Tulsa. Tulsa was the shot heard round the world, right? With the analogy of Tulsa versus, the Battle of Lexington Common, or the Battle of Concord, which is really where the shot was first heard. So.
All right. Well, that was awesome.
That was great.
Yeah. So he is like I said. He said some really great stuff. I think my favorite thing that he said in there was about the digital soldiers, kind of like what we talked about before, was how there was all these people that were digging in and helping him and everything, but that we really are in this kind of new phase of warfare where it's information and we're trying to discern the truth. And there's all of these amazing people who have really become journalists because journalism is dead as we know it, at least from a profession. And there's a lot of people, especially these podcasters that come to the Reawaken America events. A lot of them have really come into their own recently.
Yeah. And we've talked about it because they're not owned by anybody, right? And so if you work for one of these major conglomerates and they tell you can't run that story, they're paying your paycheck. You can't run the story. There's the higher ups, and there's journalists that do want to share something and they get shut down. And then you have ones that are just complying. They just get fed information and they're just doers of whatever they're told. And they're not actually doing investigative journalist stuff anymore. And you have all these podcasters that are being supported by MyPillow and all of these great places that have just been sponsors, and they're out there making their own income. They're grinding it out, and their whole goal is to tell the truth. And the best of their knowledge of what truth is, they are out there working hard. But when we were working,
and on to your point, I think what's really cool about this is that the type of media that's really burgeoning right now is all of these individual podcasters. But what's really cool is that they'll all go on each other's shows. Yeah. They'll all share each other's contacts, right? So if somebody, if one person knows Simone Gold, everybody knows Simone Gold. If one person knows Roger Stone, everybody knows Roger Stone. And these guys,
well, because they're getting canceled off of like Newsmax and Fox and all that kind of stuff. So they're like, oh, we will get your voice out there to as many people as possible.
But what I'm saying is it's like this organism, right? It's like it's this, and I've said this for a long while. I think that what's happening is that media, and I would say this in filmmaking and podcasting, any kind of media. I really think it's probably any type of organization. I think is instead of rather a top-down kind of structure. It's moving and morphing into kind of like an organism. It's kind of a loosely attached, and everybody is sharing resources, and that's really exciting.
Looks like you're mixing something.
Yeah, here. No, it is. Everybody's sharing. Yeah, mixing. Anyway, but sharing resources, and that's really really cool because it shows that we're all again mission over ego. It's not about I'm going to build my own little kingdom over here and I'm going to like push out everybody else. I'm actually going to build my kingdom and I'm going to build connections and bridges to all of these other little places. And we're seeing that expand now in an extraordinary way. We bring up the Flyover Conservatives as one of our favorite examples. I mean, they've been so wonderful with us and sharing with us all of their resources and knowledge and things that they've learned. And so it's really cool to see when somebody is able to do that. Right. Yeah. So
it's been awesome.
Yeah. So, well, I hope you really enjoyed this Raw and Uncut with General Flynn. we enjoyed watching it with you, and we're looking forward to seeing you on Saturday when we do our live. We're doing our live.
Ask questions. Let us know what you want to hear. I mean, we've got so many things to talk about. We've got so many interviews that we've done.
It's around 3:30 Eastern. We try to be right at 3:30, but occasionally, every once in a while, there's a couple minutes late. But but jump on, ask us questions, and even down below in the comments below, if you're watching this, that means that you can ask questions. Ask questions that we might be able to address on our live. That maybe you're not able to watch us live, but you can watch us later, and we can still address your questions. But then also go to Rumble.
Go to Rumble. Because there's so much free content.
There's a lot of free content over there.
Yeah.
Like we're doing daily stuff. Bucket loads. Like I said, we've got the new show with Mel K that we're really excited about. The Real History of Hollywood, where we're talking about some of the stuff that you may not know about Hollywood, but then we're also going to be talking about, like, how do we fix this thing? Because it's like, because storytelling,
this is solvable.
Yeah, storytelling and filmmaking is such a massive part of who we are as human beings, and we really need to right that ship, and so we're doing our part to be a part of that with Mel, and that's really cool. Then the cutting room floor. We've got, like I said, Spironomics and Spironomics for Kids. Abigail's just crushing that.
Yeah.
And we've got more stuff to come. So it's really, really fun. Oh yeah, and then also we've got the music video for Liberty, which is just blowing up. If you haven't seen it yet, it's because you haven't been online. Because it's true. Just going bananas.
Crazy.
And
if you want to help
exciting. Lauren is actually going to be performing that song at Mar-a-Lago for President Trump.
Boom.
Boom. Boom. Boom. And we might be there as well. So we'll let you know.
But if you want to support the projects that we're creating, you can donate right here on Locals. We super appreciate it. We have some feature films that we want to be working on with Mel K, with some amazing other patriots. And we want to do them in a free place called the United States.
Yes. So anyway,
thank you
so
much.
We love you all. Thank you again so much for being supporters, and we'll see you next time when we do another Ron Uncut. See you later.